Hello, this is Mackenzie with Plus Ultra Roofing. This is going to be a new prototype series I'll be working on. It is a kind of let's roof walkthrough commentary type. It won't be scripted. I'll just be watching and going over, pointing out some tips and tricks on how I do a roof. So this was in December. Probably see a little bit of light snow. Now, first thing I'll mention is, the starter, they're really great starter. They're meant to protect the bottom of your roof. You want the tar strip facing outwards, and I like to nail right on the inside of the tar line. From what I understand, the tar, you don't want to break that seal, but you want to be as close to the perimeter as possible. So just nail that on the inside of the tar line, and that should maximize its defense against adverse weather, aka wind. Now, the number one thing you're going to want to notice, and actually this is what I really like about Certainteed landmark shingles, is you have a double white line strip for the high wind nail zone. Mind you almost always want to nail the high wind nail zone, because nowhere is safe 100% of the time from high winds. Everywhere is going to get windy at one point or another. We're talking about roofs or systems that are going to stay on 30 years or more. So yeah, it's going to get windy eventually. A little thing I do as well, I like to do, so in this case I tacked on the drip edge with a stapler, and then whenever I put the starter on, because I'm nailing so close to the edge, I know that I'm nailing through the drip edge. It's just kind of a thing I like to do. To me, the more things I can nail with, more things I can fasten with one nail, the better. It just means there's less penetrations, so it's just something I like. One thing about winter roofing, shingles can be pretty hard to cut. I'm thinking eventually I'm going to invest in some electric knives. There's a few products coming out on the market these days, particularly for valleys. As you may have just seen a moment ago, a little trick is to just cut one layer and then cut the second layer, instead of trying to cut two layers of shingles at once when it's cold. That makes things very difficult. Also, one thing I tend to do is if a nail, I don't feel like it is set right, I'll just go ahead and put another nail. Anytime you have any doubts on how a nail is placed, and I'm talking about penetration, if you think, oh, it's shot through too deep, or mostly usually it's too deep, because if it's not deep enough, you can just hammer it in, as you'll see me do numerous times in this video. But nail penetration is very important. There's a lot of important things, but if I can think of the top most important things when it comes to installing a roof, it's your seams and it's your nail placement or penetration. That's why there's even a lot of companies these days, they boast hand nailing. That's a little extreme to me. You could just pay attention to your nailing and it's still a lot faster. Mind you, there's some people that can hand nail pretty fast, like really, really fast. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's 2024. We have these guns. We have technology. Best to use it. But I do understand how there's a big problem in the industry is people get on these guns and they don't know what they're doing. They just go ham shooting like it's Call of Duty, and half the nails blow through. They're too high. At the end of the day, it's better to take your time. So what I actually do, because there's always some kind of weather you're dealing with, it can be too hot and your nails will blow through too easy, or it can be cold and you're gonna have some other issues. So what I do is I press, then fire. I set the gun down, set it, gauge it, and then I click after. I don't know if that's making sense, but basically what that do, it's like automatic hand nailing. I don't know. I'm not just firing away with the gun. I'm actually setting it. And what happens a lot of time, I prefer my nails to be too loose rather than too tight. As in, it's better to undershoot than it is to overshoot. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's way easier. you're able to take your hammer out and nail it down. But if you shoot through and it blasts through the shingle, you have a hole, it's just, you can't fix that. So I like setting it down and single firing. So at this point in the video, basically we had to do a little bit of tie-in. Mind you, I recommend starting from the complicated end of things first. So in this case, the guy I'm working with, we started the other end. That's not a big deal. You can still do it. But if this was just me, I probably would have started at the other side where there's a bit of a tie-in. But moving on, we're starting to get a bit of an open section. As you can see, my nails, they're flush. They're hitting that double line, which I love so much. I've spent many years nailing brands of shingles where you only have one single white line to nail on. That made things very difficult. So especially nowadays, I have people working under me and I'm training them. It's way easier. I feel way better having that double line rather than saying, hey, here's a 1/4 inch white line maximum nail zone you have to work with. Don't mess up. This gives a little bit more. I mean, it's still, granted, it's like a half an inch compared to a 1/4 inch. That's twice as much room to work with. So it's nice. Okay, so, and also you may have noticed this particular shingle, I nail across it, and I guess it's hard to tell in the video, but looks like I wasn't satisfied with how the nails went. Maybe there's a seam, maybe, one reason or another, I wasn't happy with the nail placement. I mean, we do have a low wind nailing zone, and this is usually more ideal in cases of lower slopes. Say you got a 312. I mean, you should be looking into other types of shingles. However, though, it's tricky because anything under 412, you shouldn't use architecturals. However, with a 312 pitch, I would prefer to put ice and water, and maybe in that case, do the larger nail zone. Because at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, architecturals are way better than 3-tabs. But at 312, it's still too much of a pitch to put on flat roofing. So, and actually in this case, we had a 312 section. We went ahead, got some higher end ice and water peel and stick, and I mean that kind of stuff is designed for flat roofing. So fill the whole section. Synthetic might not cut it at that point, but anything 412 and up, get your rather synthetic underlayment. In this particular roof, he had a lot of issues. A lot of it was the install itself, but after having issues for so long, they didn't want to take any chances. That's why we offer upgraded packages, and in this particular upgraded package, so this would have been a platinum package, we upgrade the ice and water shield. Usually it's a Certainteed brand ice and water shield. However, this year there was a warehouse fire. They lost a lot of inventory, but that's okay. I went to one of my favorite warehouses in town, Suprema. They are just all about weatherproofing. That's their bread and butter, and I do love Suprema. It is great stuff. I've seen it put on 1,000 bundle 312s. I've seen it on flat roofing. Seen it on it all. It's great stuff. Luckily, it's colder weather and it's not as much of a hassle to put on, but in the summer, it's one of those things where you need it placed absolutely correctly before you can peel it, and it just sticks like crazy. So a couple of tips for stepping along the sides. You want to make sure, I don't think it actually happens in this case, but whenever you're filling in a wall, you gotta be careful you don't put too small of a piece. A good rule of thumb is 6 inches or more. If you can't put a 6-inch piece, you want to put a little buffer piece, which I'll have to show in another video because I just don't think it happened here. Biggest thing I wanted to point out with this video is just to show people how to nail these suckers, because I honestly believe the number 1 issue in our industry are nails getting shot through, and that's why I think we're starting to see companies advertising hand nailing, and that's perfectly fine, especially in the summer. I get it, it can be really hard to get, so much has to go right. Your gauge, your equipment has to be working properly. There's a lot, but I still think taking the time to learn your equipment and manage your gauge is still faster 90% of the time than to hand nail all of this. And probably my biggest gripe is hitting my thumb. I couldn't imagine putting on roofing all day, shingling and hand nailing. Probably hit your thumb a lot, and a thumb can only take so much. So yeah, make sure and get those nails flush on the high wind nail zone. In cold weather, again, I recommend cutting 1 layer of the shingle at a time. Here You see I'm tying in. Like I said before, it probably would have been better to start on the side that had the tie-in, but that's okay. That's the beautiful thing about shingles, is you can make a lot of it work no matter how you go about it. It's very versatile. That's the word. And that's something I like as well about, so whenever people call me and they're looking for repairs, it's so much easier to fix in some shingles. When people tell me they need a repair, they're leaking, and then they tell me it's a metal roof, there's nothing simple about that. You're probably gonna need a whole section changed or replaced. There's no cheap and easy fix. So can't go wrong with the versatility. And then of course these days, shingles, I like them because at least they are a hidden fastener system. Yeah, shingles are shingles and metal's metal, but most metal systems are exposed fasteners, and at the end of the day, they're only as good as the screws and gaskets. So you get a good high quality shingle, you get all the system in place, you strip that down to the deck and the decking's good, you get your underlayments, and you fasten a shingle roof on good. I really do think that competes with some exposed fastener metal systems. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. So here finally it's tied in, and this is the good part. This is where you get to start really opening up a bit. Shingles go on a bit faster, you get to stretch. The key thing when shingling a roof is once you get those first couple rows on, you're laughing. Things get much easier, and this is where you can actually start having fun. Get the music going. It's obviously, as you can see, a beautiful day. May have been a little chilly at first, but we're past that. One criticism about this underlayment is, and the Suprema shield, it can be pretty slippery. So that's why even on a 512, I went and I set up a rope. I don't like slipping. I don't like falling. 20 years, I've never fallen. I think there's one time I slipped off the very bottom of a metal roof in the winter. It was like 5 feet. I was fine. I've never had an actual life-threatening or major injury type fall. That's because I just refuse to fall. You have to invest so much money in safety equipment anyways. You might as well use it, especially when you have stabilizer belts or anything. You have harnesses and all this expensive equipment. You might as well just put a rope. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. If you're in the Moncton surrounding regions, New Brunswick, Canada, give me a shout. Go to my website, www.pulseultraroofing.com. My name is Mackenzie Masrol. I would love to help you with your roofing needs. So give me a shout and we will get you sorted out. Cheers, guys.